Good evening, everyone. Gives me great pleasure to invite you all back to our Career Clinic, episode 3. This is for basically the working professionals and freshers who are graduating this year and looking forward to a successful career. Launching your career is very tough. And like Bruce Lee said, if you always put limits on everything you do, whether it's physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits, there are only plateaus. And you cannot stay on a plateau, you have to go beyond them. And for you to go beyond them, there are a few tickets available. One, many, two of these important things that have come into play in the last 1 year is repeatedly we have been listening to resume writing and LinkedIn optimization and job optimization, search optimization. Maybe because everything has gone online, maybe because the way recruiters are looking at have started being different, or maybe because of the recent COVID episodes, there are the number of people who are actually fighting for a single job is gone up by 30% according to LinkedIn research. So here we are today. We are going to be talking about resume writing, why it is important, why you should have a good resume, and first of all, what is the difference between a resume and a CV and a biodata, as well as LinkedIn optimization and all other job related queries. If you are looking for a career transition, if you are looking forward to launch your career, or if you're just looking for the next best job that's suitable for you, please do log in and ask us your questions. And we already have some of the people here. Thank you for joining us today evening. And we look forward to take questions online as well. So the first question, I'm going to directly take it to our expert, Mr. Prakash Keval Ramani, who has been running a successful HR services for the past 20 plus years. So Prakash, what is the basic difference between a CV, a resume, and a biodata? Because people seem to know, have heard the word resume, but they don't seem to know the difference at all.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, Nitya, by whoever has asked. All these three are used very interchangeably in today's world. But logically, there is a difference between the three. See, resume, the word has been derived from a French word resume, which means short. Globally, US and all, they use very shortened versions of their document. I'll call it a safety document, which is really in US, the norm is 1 or 2 pages. Within 1 page for persons up to 10, 12 years, 15 years experience, and 2 page for senior people who have more to talk about CEO levels and CXO levels. India, actually, what we use is curriculum vitae, CV, but we call it resume. Curriculum vitae gives much more information than a resume. In a resume, you're supposed to be talking specifically and totally against the job description. Whatever is the job, you have to talk only about that. If it is sales job, you have to talk only about sales. You cannot talk about marketing. You just see and say how you fit in for that particular job. Whereas India, we believe in asking for more information. So we'll write about sales, we'll write about marketing. If someone has done something in finance, he'll write that also. So normally, Indian resumes would be CV would be about 3 pages or so. Biodata is really short form of average version of biographical data. So there, it's used for very specific type of industry like army, where they need much more information. In fact, your biological details, your height, your weight, and other things. So all that information is required. That's why our police force or whatever it is. That's why it's called biodata. So India, really, we are using a CV but calling it resume. I hope that difference is established.
Yes. So, if I understand it correctly, most of the freshers they will be having like a curriculum vitae, correct? Because for them, condensing that into a resume is definitely, I don't think it's a possibility at that stage, especially kids who have passed out in the last 1 year or 2020 or the coming 2021, whoever is going to pass out, they will have a curriculum vitae. But ideally, this curriculum vitae has to be, if I understand correctly, has to be converted into a resume because I also have heard about how no longer human eyes are not the first one to actually scan through the resumes that come in. So can you take us through the process of what an ATS is and why it is very essential for us to make a proper resume, professional resume?
See, I just elaborate on the earlier question. Curriculum vitae, it's most useful essentially in India for certain types of profession. Like if you're a professor or you're R&D scholar, you have a lot of projects to talk about. That's where you'll go on exhausting number of pages. It could be 4 pages, 5 pages, and all. That is acceptable. But for a professional in the corporate world, 2 to 3 pages is a maximum document. Really, it is an extension of a resume. It's not really a curriculum vitae, although we might call it a CV. See, what happens is today, one major change that has happened in recruiting all over the world and India last 5 to 10 years. One is the volume of resumes received by organizations have zoomed absolutely. Earlier days, you used to get it typed, you used to courier it. It used to be very expensive, 150 to 100 rupees for resume to type and courier. Today, at the press of a button, free of cost, you are sending your resume. Because of which people are just sending resumes to companies, even when they are not suitable for the particular job. We receive resumes. If we put an ad for finance, we get resumes from marketing, we get from HR, we get from production, all types of positions. Candidate just send the resumes for the sake that okay, हमने तो सोचा था, if you have some other vacancy, you'll consider us. But it creates a lot of workload for a person who's reading the resume. Hence, what's happened is globally, companies have installed very advanced softwares. It's called applicant tracking software. The world leader is a company called Talio, which is part of Oracle. It electronically scans the resume received in the company, extracts all the key filters and fields, and stores it in the company database. It operates at extremely high speeds. The fastest versions pick up about 10 lakh resumes in 8 hours time. That type of speed and efficiency no human being can have. But at the same time, what happens is that it's very choosy and it's a very difficult software to keep happy. I call it a monster because it rejects 70 to 75% of the resumes and CVs received by the company for various reasons. It might be rejected because the content is not appropriate, the formatting is not appropriate, the content is there, but it's in the wrong place in the resume. Because of which, even if you apply for a job, you might think I'm a perfect fit, I'm still not getting an interview call. Today, people apply for 60 and 70 jobs and still don't get even one interview call. Basic is that because they have not understood how the ATS operates and why it's rejecting your resume. So unless your CV is ATS compliant, very high probability you will not get any interview call, irrespective of how capable you are and how close a fit was your resume to the job that was advertised. So I hope I have been able to explain to you. And you should also keep in mind that every company has a very unique software. Globally, there are 20, 25 brands like Oracle is there, SuccessFactors there, SAP, Workday is there. India also has many brands like you have Hirecraft, Talent Recruit. Secondly, each of these companies keep on giving latest version, improving on their offerings. Like a Talio in 2020 is very advanced compared to a Talio in, let's say, 2018 or 2019.
Okay.
So a company having Talio also will have a different version and different capability. You cannot have one size that meets all the type of ATS that is there. So you try to keep a CV as customized and as compatible to a ATS and hope it goes through that system.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that actually should answer all those people who have been asking us time and again when I meet these MBA graduates and people freshers in the 3 to 4 year experience range. Why suddenly should I get my resume done by a professional? We have been doing this. It's not like we are the first batch of people who are applying for a job or are we? This is not the first batch of people who are actually passing out of college and then doing. So definitely. Yes, Pooja.
Yeah, so just wanted to share a recent experience, Nitya, on this very thing. And this is my own personal experience. I have two young cousins, both with some amount of an experience, one with about 4, 5 years and one with about 7, 8 years of experience. And both, due to this, one due to the corona situation and other for other reasons, are now looking for a job change. They're forced to look out. And, they reached out obviously to me for support and guidance, and the first thing that I did was to reach out to Prakash and get their resumes screened. And the kind of feedback and inputs that were given were so insightful, and hence I think it is very also important that we will also talk about the process as to what we do, etc. So it's not only about having a professional resume done, it is also about getting reviewed. A lot of people feel that resume copy paste kar liya, take it from a good person, a senior person, and use those good words, but it's not about that at all, Nitya. It's a very detailed process which actually adds value to you as a person also.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what we bring to the table as a
Yes.
team.
What they also don't, many times what I find funny is people, they kind of think about, why should I spend these few thousands on getting my resume done?
True.
I think
True.
Prakash will empathize with me on that. And then they will say, but they are okay to spend months together, time and effort,
Correct.
not getting an interview call, breaking their head, adding on to
Yes.
their stress, but they will not spend those few thousands to get their proper resume done. So,
Yes.
I also understand that you are a career transition coach. So
Yes.
you are working with a lot of working professionals who. So now, can you tell us how resume and LinkedIn in the past few months or in the past year? I think those
Mhm.
have become tools that are extensively used, especially for people looking for a career transition.
Absolutely. So, very well put, Nitya. And I think I myself learned a lot about this in the last 1 year, to be very honest. Uh, More so from the perspective of things going online. This pandemic, which has forced a lot of otherwise conservative industries, if I can use that word, they have also moved online in all their processes to a very large extent, and hence this ATS, etc., what Prakash spoke about, has become more rampant. you know and so the need to be aligned to those softwares has become much more. Working from home, and hence the scrutiny is happening online, the search is happening online, the recruiters are working all online, so the platforms have changed of hiring, the recruitment patterns and techniques have changed. Hence, a lot of emphasis on the resume and the LinkedIn. So while I've been doing a lot of these career transition coachings, initially the first two or three sessions uh, do happen around these two three tools, because that's the first thing that you start with. And what we focus on is, it's not only a resume. What I think, I'll not spend too much time on the resume part because Prakash has already spoken about that, and we will talk about the process as we move along. But more importantly is on the LinkedIn part of it. So people have still to catch on very honestly to the LinkedIn importance. So while they do are willing to even put in an effort on their resume, they are still hesitant or not clear on what to do and why to do on their LinkedIn profiles. Um, and I think we all are testimony to that, because we ourselves took that step in some time.
Yes,
So
yes.
yes, I do spend time guiding them on how, at what level their profile is on the LinkedIn, how to optimize it, how do you align it to your resume. So what your resume is talking, your LinkedIn also needs to talk that same language and be able to attract the recruiters in the right way. So what kind of, which area, so the headline is important, the 120 characters, etc., that you have, how do you use that optimally to market yourself. Then what is your summary, what are the kind of groups that you are part of, how are you, how many connections do you have, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things within LinkedIn, and this is just phase one that I'm talking about. So over a period of time, and also depending on the seniority levels, we take them through the different steps of LinkedIn, and how can they utilize that particular platform best. And people have seen the power of it. I have had two coaches of mine who have actually got jobs through LinkedIn, let me tell you. So jobs through LinkedIn is also becoming a big reality now.
Yeah,
In
that's
fact,
like
Pooja, if I
more of
can
a
add,
HR background check. It becomes like a HR background check.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
Prakash,
in
please.
fact, if I can add, Pooja, the latest statistics globally is out of 100 jobs that are closed, 60 to 70 jobs are closed through social media, mainly LinkedIn. It's only 15 to
Absolutely.
20 jobs that go through the job sites like Naukri Monster, and maybe 10 to 15 jobs go through recruitment firms. So if anyone is to focus on his career strategy or her career strategy, have a very strong resume, have a equally strong and corresponding LinkedIn, because what you say in
Yes,
resume has to be reflected in the LinkedIn and vice versa. Because ultimately both
absolutely.
are captured by the ATS. So if there's a discrepancy, I've seen people whose names also are differing between the resume and the LinkedIn, and it gets rejected by ATS. The person might just put a middle initial S, and the system thinks they are two different people. It could be like Vishwanath Iyer and Vishwanath S. Iyer. You might think it's the same person, but ATS, you call it artificial intelligence, it has no intelligence. It is programmed to pick up the way it is receiving the information. So it will treat as two different people. So everything in your resume has to match with the LinkedIn. And 60 to 70% of all positions closed beyond certain level above, maybe a manager and above, are closed through LinkedIn. That's the relevance of LinkedIn. And unfortunately, we come across even heads of HR who are not very savvy on LinkedIn, not familiar with it.
Totally, totally.
Over to you, Nitya. Yeah.
Yes. So that, okay, I'm going to briefly touch upon the various stages of a career transition or a career job optimization. So Vinay, this question goes to you. Now, Vinay has been training graduates and freshers and others on interview skills and other things for the past 15 plus years. So Vinay, one of the question, one of my counselees has actually written in is, with multiple rounds of interviews being done now, how to prepare for HR ones, and because many of the students, are very good at technical rounds, because they would have just passed out of the college and they know what is good. They are still in touch with the subject and they can do that. So how to answer? I mean, how to prepare for HR? And another student asked, how much is the ideal time that I should spend on answering the question? Tell me about yourself.
Thank you, Nitya. Can I take the second question first?
Yes, yes, please. So you're going to be answering about, tell me about yourself.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
See, typically in interview, like when you go for an interview, they normally the first question is something like, "Tell me about yourself." It can come in different words, but the meaning is the same. So, ideally, why this question is asked is what we need to understand. Then we can probably form a response for the same. The question is asked for basically three things. One is uh, to put you at ease. It's an open-ended question, so you are having some nerves, and like especially for freshers and all that, there might be some nerves and all that. So, uh, if an open-ended question, nobody can give a reply. The candidate cannot give a reply by saying yes or no or any cryptic answer like 2 words or 3 words or something like that. So they ask an open-ended question like that, so that you start speaking in the interview, and as you speak slowly you get that confidence, just okay, I'm doing all right, the words are coming out nicely, and I'm I'm in control and all that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they're checking on your communication skills, like how you are able to project yourself and what you're going to talk about yourself. So about your language skills and how speak the language, the words you use, and how come up with the kind of words, and those words what you use maybe should be also matching with the kind of words you're using in your resume. That's another thing which they might also be looking at. And the third and most important thing is, this is a golden opportunity for the candidates to actually create a great first impression. Okay, actually, like uh, this, there's something called a 1990 rule in interviews. The first 90 seconds almost decides 90% of the result of the interview. That means the first 90 seconds decides whether you are likely to be selected or likely to be rejected. So this is where I think you need to be a little careful. Uh, Normally, what we come across is, we have seen people talk about their education and what kind of projects they have done, and maybe a little bit of career strengths and all those things. But let me tell you, those are all things which are already there in the resume, and they have already had a look at your resume and all that. So there's no need to repeat those kind of things and all those things. This is where I think you should come up with something which, about maybe a story about yourself, something which made you take engineering or made you do something in life, and where you realize that you have certain skills or certain things which you cannot be probably writing in a resume and all that. And maybe like your because of your childhood, you have like you have got empathy for people who are not so rich, or you want to do some kind of a social activities apart from the job you are seeking for. Anything, it could be any story which is totally connected with you and something which you feel a lot for. And maybe if you are able to connect it little bit to the job which you are applying for, that will be a wonderful answer. I think that is where the real you comes out. So you need to be yourself first and come up with your own individual story. Don't try to repeat things which are there on the internet and all those things. Every like I've seen campus recruiters talk to me and say that out of 400 students they have interviewed, 380 people said the same thing about tell me about yourself. Just the
True.
name and the other things are different.
So
So
true.
only
So,
those 20 guys who give a different kind of response, those are the guys who are actually getting selected.
yeah. So what
Right.
I would like to add here is like recently I had the good fortune of interviewing Sanjeev Bhatia, who's the co-founder of Hotmail. So he has launched a sneak reel that's a video resume kind of thing. So all of us have a story. The idea is to convey that story in a short and crisp form and in a unique form also, not just conveying it in a short and crisp form, but also what is the unique flavor that you're bringing in, what is the unique what makes you. So that was the idea that he was saying, and if you can convey that as a video resume in 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, then definitely you know what is it you are, and you are in touch with. So that kind of conveys to the interviewer that this person knows himself and can actually deliver on what he's promising. So the
Right.
second
So
question,
Nitya, if I can just add one line, I think Vinay very beautifully put it as to how do you answer this. The crux lies actually in preparing for this particular question. And what I've seen is people do not prepare for this at all. They feel ये तो simple है, you know, and I can say, but when they actually go out and sit there and then it sounds like a school essay at times. I'll be very honest to
Frank,
say
yeah.
this, you know, it sounds like a school essay, and a school essay that too of a seventh or eighth grader. Often, if you hear what they
they
say,
start with
and
दादा परदाता के कुंडली से लेकर आज तक आज सुबह क्या
yeah,
खाए.
maybe if not that, you know, so I am this, I am this, I am this, you know, it just goes on with sentences. It is not a story. So what Vinay actually said is very important, and you need to work on this. You need to prepare your story. It has to go through iterations. You need to get somebody to listen to it and give you feedback on it. How impressive is it? Is it talking something different? Is it showing you different? Is it showing you what you really are? You know, those are the things that you need to really work on, and that is what breaks the ice and makes you different, probably, you know, amongst the 10 people sitting outside.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a very important aspect which a lot of people don't focus on, unfortunately. So I think we need to give this a lot of due importance, and thank
Yes.
you, Vinay, for putting it so well. I could not have done it better.
So I'm going to bring in Bhavyata at this stage.
So I have
Bhavyata,
not finished my part. Wait.
yeah, please go ahead.
I have the other question to talk about,
Yes,
and
how to
yeah,
prepare for your HR.
and before starting my reply for that, for tell me about yourself, roughly around 2 to 2.5 minutes is the maximum. I think you should. That is my opinion. I think beyond that it becomes too long and very monotonous for the panel to hear. Roughly, it should be around 1.5 minutes. Ideally, between 1 to 2 minutes is ideal. If you have a very fantastic story with a lot of emotion, maybe 2.5 minutes is the max. Okay. So coming back to the other question about how to prepare for the HR rounds, the basic thing is first thing is be yourself. Okay, and don't try to show something there which you are not. I think if that gap between what you are and what you are showing there in the interview, if there is a gap, it is the recruiters, they have seen the panel people, they have seen thousands of people like you, and they have met and asked questions from thousands of candidates. So they would definitely catch the gap between what you are and what you are showing there. And they can ask some tricky questions, which will actually you will end up breaking down or something like that. So the other thing is for HR question, first thing is understand why they're asking that particular question. Like if they're asking you a question like, what are your, where do you see yourself 5 years from today? No, the question is asked that way is not about to look at your career plan. They are not interested in that. They are looking at whether you have an inclination to invest yourself with them for that 5 years, or you do you even think about being with them if you are selected, that you will be investing yourself with them for that 5 years, or they might be looking at some kind of a leadership potential in you and things like that. So are you ready to take up those kind of things is something. So the idea behind asking question, the why they are asking that question, if you are able to understand, automatically you can form a response to that. Like there are so many questions like that. Actually we uh, shortly we are planning to have a small module on interview questions. We will be announcing that. I think if you attend that program, probably you will get actual live answers for most of the tough questions that they ask in HR round.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Bhavita,
Thanks.
I want to ask you this. Okay, Bhavita has been a trainer with NMMIS Mumbai, and currently she's in Qatar. So she represents careers for sure in the Qatar region. Um One thing that always strikes me when Bhavita talks is her positive way of communicating whatever she's communicating. So that is a skill set that many graduates and even people who are actually having experience lack. And at some point or other, this kind of derails their success ratio. Is it true or not? And how do they actually work on this? How do they work on their communication skill?
Wonderful question, Nitya. In fact, in my 5 years at NMIMS, we were able to improve the placement ratios from, I would say, 20, 30% to a good 65, 70% assured placement. The remaining that didn't go for placement were either students who were going abroad for further studies and did not opt for placement, or a very small minuscule eventually were those who needed other options, or they needed to repeat their year for some reason, and so and forth. What you asked me actually hits the main core of what we identified through analysis as to how we were to improve placement each year. So there was a kind of an escalation when I joined. There was a lot of issue, and MIMS was a university where Fortune 500 companies easily come down for internship as well as placement. And then we had the responsibility as a placement cell to give them good quality students who could deliver on site. I have reduced conflict and have the confidence to speak, have the confidence to communicate. But all that would be possible on site only if they clear the first hurdle, which is the interview on campus. And one of the things that I have consistently observed is students do not lack academic profile. They do not lack, or there is no dearth of students with good marks, good projects, having done internships, and even have a weighty record or a profile, as we say. But where they lacked were being able to present it to the interviewer, who only has that amount of time kept aside to make a life decision on this candidate. And students often mistake communication as a recall of all events that have happened in their life, like a timeline, often in a very monotonous and an uninteresting manner. Uh, Positive communication also means constructive and result oriented communication. If I'm here to deliver, I need to make sure that I'm talking in a way that my objective is achieved. Now, young students aren't necessarily trained to think in a way which is goal oriented. That means if they are there for the interview, the job is to get a call from them, is to get a yes from them, not just be on your side and say, I did my job well, I don't know why they didn't select me. You better know why they didn't select you, because you need to understand that communication is a very, very important. I would say it starts with as simple as smiling when you enter the room. Right, the positivity in the words, it comes later, and they say that within the first 4 seconds, or by the time you've taken chair, the interviewer has almost made a decision on a fresh graduate who they know that none of his theoretical information is going to be translated into actual job performance. It is they who will be training the fresh graduate into whatever role there is. So as the adage goes, they don't necessarily hire for skills, they hire for attitude. And all that, students and even higher rung on the order, once your technical competencies are in place, your job is done, the rest should be in your pocket, because then it's about showing a great attitude. And what is this great attitude, right? It's not just about a vague term we use to demarcate positivity. We need these in concrete terms, because you go out there. Great attitude means the willingness to learn, the willingness to perform, and an attitude which says I can and I will. Okay, if you're able to show this attitude, I think half the battle is won, and the other half is won with a positivity that says I'm really willing to come and be a part of your organization, conveying that you are willing to be a part of the team, conveying that you are looking forward to be a part of the team, and portraying yourself as a general problem solver. And I would hit upon or slightly bring in a part of the conversation that Vinay made, and a very important point he made, that the first story that you say about yourself is very, very important. Within that story, apart from what life experiences you want to share, and when he said related to the job, that is the hook, related to the job, and speak about what problem did you ever solve in life. If you're able to convey yourself as a result oriented person and as someone who thinks about problem solving, you have no clue of how the other side is going to look at you very differently, and make a decision you based on that one incident, which may not be related to your academics or your sports. So positive communication means constructive communication, clear communication. Understand the meaning of words you use. Do not use wrong words in the wrong place at the wrong time. Keep your language simple, but keep it accurate. Be articulate, all right, and show result orientedness, and show yourself as a problem solver, and an attitude which says I can, I will, and I am wanting to be a part of your organization. The rest is influence that you can exert on the panel. So I think these are
I think instead of giving me an answer, actually, Bhavita took a whole module on how to communicate. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.